All right, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast, BBO or Black Box Online Radio. Today we're talking all about the case of OJ Simpson. I've done a handful of uploads on this channel about it because I just have to confess that this is one thing that I just can't stay away from. No matter what happens, I always end up going back to OJ Simpson for something, and it's like there is just, always some kind of loose end that needs to be tied up. And I will have to say that when it comes to alternative theories and doubting the mainstream narrative, I was all over this one. I used to say, though, that the theory put forth by William Deere that the murder was actually committed by Jason Simpson as opposed to OJ Simpson was not only mind-blowing, but it was also something that I genuinely entertained as possible. Like, I used to say that was the one conspiracy theory that I would actually put weight in. And a lot of that is because William Deere was just a very good presenter of it. However, over time, I have to confess that I have had a sort of change of heart about things. Like, I don't really know how a lot of people who believe in the alternative OJ theories are going to react to this, but I am leaning much more... Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to say flat out, OJ is guilty, and I don't believe any of the alternative theories anymore. The Jason Simpson theory was debunked fairly well by the Martin Sheen-produced documentary series that challenged all of William Deere's assertions and arguments, and William Deere's whole presentation got turned upside down in that six-part miniseries. Now let's look at some of the things about why are all the alternative OJ theories useless. Well, the thing we have to look at first of all is OJ is not consistent with what he says. He is a liar, he is intentionally deceptive, and let's look at some of the things from his 1996 interview with Ross Becker. And I was watching this one, and I was just like, this was just, kind of wipe the slate clean about any sort of alternative theories, except one, so stay to the end, because I'll talk about one that's plausible. But it's like, O.J. Simpson said that there were only 15 drops of blood found at Rockingham. He said that there was so little blood evidence in his white Bronco that there is no way Mark Fuhrman could have seen it. Mark Fuhrman, insinuating that either Mark Fuhrman planted the evidence or Mark Fuhrman opened the Bronco and then tampered with something. He's saying there's no way a human could have seen the blood evidence in the Bronco. You can go on Google Images and find it yourself. There are not 15 drops. You can see enormous smears across the white Bronco. I mean, this is very, very visible. These are not little droplets. There are enormous smears of visible blood. OJ flat out lied. You can see the blood evidence at Rockingham as well. And he also had the notion that there were 30 drops of blood taken out of his vial, which I do believe there was some evidence tampering, and it is possible that OJ would have won an appeal if he had a kind of if he had appealed after the guilty verdict. If he had been ruled guilty and he had done an appeal, there's a very high chance that OJ could have gone free on an appeal, because evidence tampering means you did not get a fair trial. However, that didn't happen. He was found not guilty. I mean, he lied about the blood evidence in a very, very obvious way. I mean, we didn't have the internet back in 1996 at the time of this interview, so you can't just get on Google Images and be like, hey, that's not true. So, we have that as the first one. The second one that I would say is rather big is, now, I hope I'm not mispronouncing this, but OJ owned a pair of Bruno Magli shoes that had a very, very distinct sole print. And when they found bloody footprints at the crime, they were able to definitively match the footprint to a pair of Bruno Magli shoes that OJ owned. Moreover, they even had a photo of him wearing them. And, it's like he first denied that those were real. He said the photo was doctored. And they were like, this ran in a newspaper nationwide. It went through a photo engraver. there was no chance that the photo was doctored. The photo that had been put in the newspaper of him wearing the shoes that had been matched to the crime scene had not been doctored. It had been, gone through the process. It had not been doctored. But during this interview with Ross Becker, what he says is that he doesn't know if he owned Bruno Magli's shoes or not. He's like, I'm a guy. I don't really know the names of my shoes. Of course he knew, because that was the silver bullet in the civil trial that he just got out of. We're talking, this interview was back from 1996. OJ cannot stay consistent with his bullshit, for lack of a better term. And, it's like, there are a lot of theories out there that insinuate that Nicole Brown Simpson had a connection to drugs, that it was actually Nicole that was involved with the drug cartels, or the that even Colombian necktie thing, or just they're saying that Nicole actually had some drug connections, also something to do with La Mezzaluna, that was a front for drugs and Nicole was tied into it. There's also theories that Robert Kardashian was the one who carried the contaminated influence in, that Robert Kardashian had an illegal contact that somehow developed a relationship with Nicole. I just have to brush all those off. And I also have to dismiss all of the Jason Simpson theories. It's like, it's just not adding up. Now, I did say that there would be one plausible thing going on here, and all we can really say is that it really looks like there were at least two people involved with the OJ Simpson murder, even if that just means that one person was the getaway driver. And I don't know that 100%. We did have somebody who came forward and said that they witnessed the white Bronco near the home of Nicole Brown Simpson on the night of the murder, and that person passed a lie detector test for the previously mentioned Jason Simpson miniseries. However, they also stated that it was Jason Simpson, OJ's oldest son, was with him on the night of the murder, that he saw Jason Simpson in the car. But, that lie detector test was given more than 20 years later. I mean, I don't doubt, you would forget seeing something like the white Bronco, about how widely publicized the O.J. Simpson trial was. That person probably genuinely did see O.J.'s car. However, insisting that there were two people in it as opposed to one, and also definitively stating that that was Jason Simpson. Keep in mind, Jason Simpson hadn't been broadcast to the national media yet. It's a bit of a stretch, but a lot of people are really going at the angle that O.J. Simpson had a partner in this. There was a second person involved with the murders. But, just the fact that O.J. is so painfully denying these blatantly false statements. It's like, when I say he's denying the blatantly false statement, I guess I should phrase that a little better. He's denying what we knew. Once again, this was said back in 1996 when people couldn't verify information on the internet. And, you couldn't just look at the crime scene photos and know that there's more blood than what he's talking about. I'm really bringing this up as a topic because there are so many people in the comment sections on YouTube and on other forums that are insisting that OJ is innocent, that OJ was framed, and this goes back all the way to 1994. However, I really think that we should just put a lot of these theories to rest, because it's like there are just so many things that are pointing toward O.J. Simpson's guilt. He is blatantly lying about the evidence, especially these shoes, because, they matched his shoes to the crime scene. The way that O.J. just explains all the blood evidence is that none of his blood was involved. He believes that whatever blood was there did not contain his, and it wasn't until his blood was taken out of the laboratory, and that his blood was genuinely planted in those scenes. But if you say something like that, you have to prove it. And, O.J. has deliberately tried to deceive people. He has deliberately tried to falsify statements, and a lot of people who support the O.J. Simpson innocence side are really going to take a lot of exception to some of the things that I put out, but it's like, he is just a complete liar, and he doesn't want to sort of take accountability, which I totally understand, and I understand that he gives the interviews for money, and he lost a lot of his money in the legal defense, this, that, and the other. However, just the fact that he was just so painfully lying, I mean, that just leads me down the conclusion that all of these alternative theories aren't really adding up. And the only one I ever kind of put some genuine belief in was the Jason Simpson theory, because the way that William Deere presented it, everything made sense. William Deere explained all of the anomalies associated with Jason Simpson. Yet, under a cross-examination, a lot of those things came out, especially the blood evidence. Especially the blood evidence is much more suggestive of OJ being involved, as opposed to Jason Simpson. So it's like, I'd have to say that I think we need to put a lot of these alternative theories to rest, and people, are very, very passionate that OJ was framed, but all of those theories have enormous holes in them, and they don't hold up very well under cross-examination. Furthermore, it doesn't explain why OJ was painfully lying about everything, and he's been caught lying multiple times. That's why he lost the civil trial. He lost the civil trial because they were directly able to tie his shoes to the crime scene, as well as other things. That's not the only reason, but that is the definite silver bullet that gave it away. And that was definitely a hard piece of evidence that was used against him, and he lost the civil trial. It's like that's as good as a conviction, except for the fact that he didn't serve any jail time, though. All right, but what do you think? Do you think that there are any alternative theories regarding the OJ Simpson case, the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, that are plausible? Do you think that there's any chance that OJ Simpson did not commit the murders? Do you think that OJ had a partner involved with this, such as a getaway driver, or maybe someone who actually did participate in the stabbings, which would explain all the cut marks on Ron Goldman's hands? What would you say? All right, until next time. See ya.